Hello.
Okay. Yeah. I can hear you. Let me open up your resume. Okay, can you just describe brief about yourself and then we can go with the technical round?
So, my name is Ritvik. Right now, I'm working with KMG IT Services Gurgaon for the last 2.5 years in this company. So, total experience is 4 years, 6 months. So, right now, I am working in a hybrid environment in which 50% of that includes cloud and 50% of that includes IT internal operations. So, if I talk about IT internal operation, my task is to handle all the servers and the firewalls and all the internal network related stuff. And apart from that, if I talk about cloud, so all the resources which are related to production environment, as per client requirement and as per the company requirement, my task is to create those resources. So this company is basically a software development company. So a part of it is DevOps also. So in DevOps, we use general tools like Docker, etc. So and create whatever the requirements are. And apart from that, there is server monitoring also.
What monitoring?
Server monitoring is also
And
part
what
of
tool
it.
you used for monitoring?
Hmm?
What tool you used for monitoring?
We use different types of rules, but basically more focus is on Nagios, Prometheus, and Grafana.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so and your day-to-day activities is something that you described, creating servers and then setting up monitoring. Then what else day-to-day task you get?
Day-to-day task we get is if there are any requirement for the production environment. So to keep an eye on all those resources which have already been created, and create new resources for their testing for the developers. And apart from that, as I have told you, 50% of that includes internal operations also. So management of firewall, internal servers. So we have dedicated server on premise. And apart from that, all those my complete IT infra, cloud, and DevOps, in which is distributed 50-50.
Okay, so you are fully on cloud team or in that IT team?
So that's basically an hybrid environment. 50% of it is in IT internal operations and 50% is cloud.
Okay. So that the whole team is managing both of these
So there are
environment, right?
so there are in total of 5 people. One is in US, one is in Kolkata, and 3 of us are in Gurgaon. So we coordinate with the mail or do video calls just like we are doing now, and coordinate in that manner. So there are various types of projects in our company. So those are using AWS services. Some of them are using Azure little bit. So
how do you rate yourself in AWS?
around 3.5 out of 5, 3.5 to 4.
Okay, so what activities you do on AWS? What services you used on AWS side?
All the general services, if they so suppose there is a scenario where the company has asked me to test any deployments, or developer has created any website. So first of all, we will deploy and test that in EC2 instance on our local account, and show them to the managers and give demo to the clients. And if those are passed by all the teams. So after that we do the production. So these kind of things.
Okay, so let's say if I'll give you a situation and I have a three-tier application. There will be a load balancer, there will be database, and there will be application server. Okay, and then you have to design that infra, and based on that, it should be highly secure, and its access level is also perfectly maintained. So how will you design that?
So three-tier application is basically the one layer will be of the jump host and the version host. So that will be that those are used for the security purposes. One layer will be of the web server and database server will be connected at the backend. Apart from that, we will create security groups. We will use ACLs, and apart from that, we will do the port forwarding. So suppose to access any server we use SSH 22 port, so we will change using SSH go to config file and change that port. Apart from that, we can also do some server hardening kind of things, and apart from that, we have virtual firewall also in our cloud. So these types of restrictions we will apply to that three tier.
So what firewall is there in AWS?
So I have not deployed the firewall in AWS. So till now those activity as I have not I have not got the opportunity. But we use generally use security groups and ACL, and basically
what kind of ACLs will apply there?
inbuilt ACLs in AWS. So ACLs basically provide security for both incoming and outgoing traffic.
Okay. So have you ever tried to create your own networks VPC in AWS?
Yes.
Okay. So how will you create your own private subnets, and what is the difference actually in private and public subnet?
So the public subnet is basically the internet facing subnet. The traffic it is that interface is directly exposed to the internet. And if I talk about the private subnet, so basically in practical scenario, database servers are connected in private subnet and accessed via the public subnet. So to move traffic to and through to the internet, we use NAT gateway or NAT instance, etc. So and if you want to create our own private VPC, so we have to create our own VPC subnet group, route table, ACL, security groups, so those kind of things.
Okay.
So
let's say
and one practical example is that we can do VPC to VPC peering, in which we will keep database servers in another VPC and web servers in another VPC and do VPC peering. So
how this is going to benefit us in as we will separate databases in a separate VPC. How it's going to benefit?
So we will not separate the databases. We will keep web servers at one VPC and database servers in another VPC, and will access through the private IP. So the connection between those will be fast. So this kind of deployment is can be done for the security purposes, and if we want to change any to basically to reduce complexity in the VPC. So this is a distributed kind of thing. So this is also one practical example.
So and how about application layer load balancers? Have you tried the load balancing using ALBs or
load balancing are of three types. One is application load balancer, one is network load balancer, and one is classic load balancer. So classic load balancer is was used up till 2016. So nowadays we use application load balancer for HTTP and HTTPS, and for TLS and layer 4 protocols we use network load balancer along with auto scaling.
Yeah, but classical is still there, right? So if it is used up to 2016, then why it is still there in the console? It's exists as a AWS service.
So might be for the testing purposes, but my company has asked me that it is going to be obsolete, and if we use it might create problems for us in future. So go for the latest kind of thing and not go for classic. It might have some limitations. And,
Okay.
and
Okay, so what is the difference between ALP and the application load balancer and the network load balancer?
protocol difference, one is designed for HTTP and HTTPS kind of traffic. So the traffic will be the traffic which is distributed, means HTTP and HTTPS traffic is will be load balanced by the application load balancer. And if we talk about the network load balancer, so TCP, UDP and TLS traffic, basically layer 4.
Okay, so can't we do HTTP traffic on network load balancer?
I think no. I have not tried this scenario. We cannot. For HTTP traffic, we will have to use the application load balancer.
Yeah, but let's say I have some hybrid applications that I have to design in this way, that I have to use something like HTTP traffic also, and then some of the ports I need to open for a TCP. So what approach should I use?
So in that case, we can use two load balancers or network load balancers.
But you are saying like HTTP is not cannot used with that network load balancer. Okay, so and then how target group works?
So we have to assign the our servers to the target groups. So similar kind of, and we have to create the metrics. And so the metrics which we use in our company is uh, CPU utilization for any single application which is very complex, or if it is distributed kind of thing. So we can use hard disk or memory metrics. So
These metrics, what is the purpose of these metrics to grab these one?
these metrics are used at the utilization of the CPU is going above 75% or our desired uh, our set parameters. So the number of EC2 instances will be replicated automatically.
Oh, that is actually auto scaling group. I was asking about target groups.
So if we want to add those EC2 instances, so for that we use the target groups.
Okay, so in auto scaling, let's say you are saying like you are using that scaling metrics, right? And then I have to. So how this scaling metric works? So let's say I have to make a choice. Hey, that my machine's traffic is gonna 75%, more than 75%, right? Then it gets scaled. So how that instance will know, or the target group will know, or maybe that auto scaling group know, like, hey, I need to scale it up, and how it's get notified?
Backend process, I have no idea, but if we increase, sorry, if the matrix is being breached, so the auto scaling is done automatically
Okay.
by the
Okay,
VPS.
so and so have you used databases?
Yes.
What kind of databases you used?
MySQL and MariaDB, so those kind of. So basically, we had some databases issues in our internal servers, so we decided to move to cloud. So I create those RDS and hand over it to the developers, and they design the database. So my task is to basically test and run basic command in databases. Apart from that, if we want to migrate those databases, so if we want to move those databases to EC2 instances, so we can use like WinSCP. And if we want to move from EC2 instance to RDS instances, for that we can use DMS service. So those kind of thing activities in.
So as a DevOps, right? Let's say you have to maintain so how would you achieve with RDS?
Please pardon.
Yeah, so as a DevOps engineer, right, you should maintain like the application or database should be highly available, and without interrupting any application, can you implement some kind of a system which is gonna take a automated backup and then it's not impacting anything?
Sorry, actually your call got stuck. Please pardon the question. There is some connectivity issue.
Oh, okay. Is it still
No, right now
same
it
or
is fine, but when you were asking the question, so that the screen got
okay?
stuck.
Okay. What I was saying is, so let's say you have to take some backups and recovery options for database. You
Hmm.
have to implement something, some solutions like that. So how would you do that on MySQL or maybe Postgres?
So, if you want to take the disaster recovery point of scenario, so we can use create the read replicas, or we can create the snapshots, or we can create if costing is not an issue, so we can create the exact replica in another region for the data recovery. And for automated backups, so there is one option why when we are creating the databases, so by default that is 7 days of by default, and maximum is 35 days. So we can change the setting, and the database is saved in three regions intelligently by the AWS. So in that manner we can save our databases. So there are various types of options, and apart from that, one is like uh, AWS backup service. So I think
Okay.
using that also we can save our basically take the backup of our RDS.
Okay. And then let's say you have a situation. Okay. You launch an instance which you assigned a 50 GB of root volume, right? Now suddenly this volume is full of disk, and then how would you that increase that volume, or if you need to take some actions, then
So
what will be your first
so my first
step of thinking?
my so 6 months back I have faced this issue. So we will
Mhm.
go to the modify option, and we will extend that volume, and after that go to the instance, and grow part and resize using grow and resize command. We will run in our Linux system, and if it is a Windows instance, go to disk management and mount that disk. So, and if we want to reduce any volume, so we have to create the new volume, move the data from old to new, attach that volume, and delete volume instance which was greater in size. So there are both of the scenarios are there.
Okay, okay. And sometimes this kind of scenario also happened that you lost your private key. Then what is the option, or what how will you allow somebody or to log into that instance?
So we will create another instance, right? So the volume will have that pem file. So we will attach that volume from that instance attached to the culprit instance, and attach both the volumes, and after that we will move the pem file from this volume to that volume, and after that we will detach that volume and attach to the newly created server, and that pem file will be moved to the older one, and the new pem file which we have created will be used to access the culprit EC2 instance. So this is the way.
Okay. Mhm. Okay, you said you manage IAM users, group their permissions, and then access managements, right?
So if I talk about the IAM, so there are some of the data very actually what happened in last year was we had to face virus attack in our company. So we have to
Uh-huh.
move the data, very critical data, to the cloud. So we have created users and group department wise. So those users
So,
and apart from that in IAM we whenever we have to give the temporary access to somebody for the resources or the user, we create the IAM role, etc. So IAM uses basically used to give the restricted permissions to the user, because root access cannot be given to every user.
Okay. So let's say you have created a role, then how will you make sure that you are giving the correct access or not?
So when we create a role, we have a list of resources. So if I talk about the S3, so in that we have full access, read-only access. So there are various kind of options. So the we get a request from any user or any client user, and we analyze and discuss with our team, and in that way we assign the role to that particular user or group.
So where you can attach the role, what entities that role supports?
Both users and resources.
Both users, I think. I didn't get that. Users and resources.
Hmm? Please pardon.
Users and resources, right?
Yes, users and resources.
Yeah, just a moment.
So if we assign restricted entry, hello.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so the next thing is
Actually, your voice was not. You got on mute.
still.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Are you hearing me? Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So it got muted for some time.
Yeah, actually I got a call.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, so and then you said you create buckets and work in the bucket policy implementation.
Hmm.
Can you elaborate a bit?
So bucket policy is something when we map it to the Route 53. For that, we have to update the bucket policy. If we are using with the CloudFront, we have to basically, whenever we are syncing that S3 to any other resource, so we have to make the connectivity. We have to update the bucket policy, so which can be in the JSON format, etc. Apart from that, we can attach that S3 bucket to our EC2 instance and keep our static website. If we want to host static website, so for those purposes S3 is used. Basically the object kind of
As we supposed to take
hello
no.
sir, your
Yeah, go ahead.
am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Huh.
Oh, hold on. Let me change my network actually. Hello.
Yes.
Is it better now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so now my questions is, let's say you have to give some permissions to a specific user that can access a specific directory in S3. How can you do that?
Using IAM, and we will give the restricted S3 access to that particular user.
And could you elaborate a bit more of what level of access and what entities you are going to use?
So when we are creating a role, there are already the restricted entries which are given to us in the list. So in that way we give the restricted access to the users.
Okay.
So if you want to give the read access, read only access, so the particular user will give read only, get a read only.
So you are saying cost optimization via scheduled auto start and stop instances.
Hmm.
So how you optimize the cost on that?
So we optimize the cost on that. So basically we had run the JSON script attached to that EC2 instance via Lambda. So there was one client in the night time, he had a very lesser amount of traffic in on his servers, and on the daytime he had large amount of traffic. So in that way,
But let's say if that client gets some random traffic overnight, so he cannot serve anything, right?
so automatically that will scale up. It is based upon the auto scaling and the CloudWatch metrics.
Yeah, but how auto scaling? No, their traffic got came.
Using metrics. So uh, so there are various metrics which are offered by the AWS. So if those metrics are being breached, the EC2 instance replicates automatically.
Okay. Security group. Okay, so how much you are comfortable with the Linux?
In Linux, the label which is required to create the to create the resources in AWS. So up till that part, I use the Linux part.
And then if you have to configure and you have to do some kind of a hardening, if you have to debug something with operating system level, okay, are you comfortable with that?
So whenever I am stuck, I take the help of the Google and whatever the resources available on internet or our teammates, right? So that is because if you talk about any technology, so that is endless, right? So and Linux, we have two servers in our company. We have one AI project, artificial intelligence. So on-premise two servers are given to them, and the rest of we use in AWS, both Windows and Linux.
Okay. And what operating system do you use on your laptop?
Laptop. Uh, uh, for the DevOps kind of thing, we use Linux, and basically we have created the using VirtualBox. We have created Linux image, and the host operating system on our laptops is by default Windows. So
Okay.
so sometimes some of the applications or the entities are not working on Windows, and so basically we take any access if we want to troubleshoot any on-premise, and AWS we use PEM key to access the Linux. And for if we want to test any application, basic testing in our laptop, so in our office we have created desktop and laptop also, and created a VM in that, because there are various types of Linux. One is CentOS, RHEL, so it is impossible to, right? So it is better to go for the virtualization.
Okay. And then you mentioned ensure system application or security, reliability, data integrity. How will you ensure all of these? So let's say if you have a data center and there are these machines, so how will you make sure their availability and reliability?
Right now, I am not in data center, but if you talk about the data integrity, so we
I mean, no, not that, because you have a hybrid environment, right?
Mhm.
Some of is on premise and some are on AWS.
Mm.
So if you have on premise servers, how will you make sure that reliable and available?
So we have for some of them we have created the backup servers, and we sync those their users data. And if I talk about the cloud, so cloud is already keeping 3 copies in different regions, so in that way the data integrity is maintained. And if there are any servers what was hard disk are corrupt, so we make them secondary and provide data to the users. In that way we recover.
Okay.
Mm.
Cloud migration, what kind of migration?
Cloud migration is basically, so we do if there is any application and if you want to move to the cloud, so there is not that much change. Only the EC2 instances of that particular server is has to be created, and that thing is already moved in the similar manner. And if I talk about the databases, so databases migration are done like I have told you before. So these kind of migrations we do.
Okay. Hmm.
So
And
anything which is
what kind of
important,
firewall did you use?
huh?
Firewall.
Firewall we have on-premise firewall. In AWS I have not virtual firewall I have not created.
No. On-premise firewall. What firewall did you use?
Sophos,
Sophos. Okay.
Sophos XG 210.
Mm, Okay, so you mentioned like in your skills that you worked on Docker, Jenkins, and Swarm.
Hmm. So
Yeah, so how much you're comfortable with Docker?
around 3.5 out of 5, because DevOps is also the part of it is not that much, but yes, since it's a software development company, so we have to basically create create VMs or EC2 instances and install these services, and sometimes configure also.
So what is Docker actually?
Docker is a containerization tool which is used to deploy the applications in the form of the containers. So
Mm-hmm.
and it is does the OS level virtualization. So it does not require the base operating system.
It is not required the base operating system. What does this mean?
Base operating system means there is no operating system required. So if you talk about the Windows, so in Windows what happens is, we first of all we have to create the Windows, and after that we install the uh, virtualization, and we again install the operating system, and then divide that. So VM layer is subtracted from that, so it takes very less space and is very flexible due to this reason. So that is known as
Okay.
OS level virtualization.
Hmm. And then Jenkins.
So in Jenkins is a CI/CD pipeline tool. So my task is to create EC2 instance and install the Jenkins and do all the related stuff, and create mailing service, install plugins, and do basic CI/CD pipelines, and create Jenkins file.
But how would you do that CI/CD pipelines? How you create those?
So CI/CD pipeline is basically we create the various stages in Jenkins. So one is the scripting and one is the declarative using the Jenkins file, right? So in that way we create various stages like dev, test, QA, prod, build, and in those stages we write our scripts, and in that way, and after that we build that CI/CD pipeline, and if that is successful, so a successful message is displayed. Otherwise, so in that way, the CI/CD pipeline is configured.
Okay. And you mentioned that you use Prometheus also.
So Prometheus is used with Grafana, so for monitoring of the servers.
How Prometheus works?
How Prometheus works? We have to install the Prometheus in our Linux operating system. So basically, it does not work well with the Windows. And after installing Windows, we have to edit the YAML file and add servers to the YAML file, and after that we create the graphical format, and we have to run various queries in Prometheus, and we get various types of graphs. So the graphics which are provided by the Prometheus are not that much good. So if we want to integrate that with the Grafana, so we install Grafana also in the similar system, and apart from that we do in the data source option we pull Prometheus, and there we get a total graphical. So Grafana is basically more on graphical kind of thing. It gives a very clear picture, and it is very good to look at.
Okay. Okay, shell scripting, how much you are comfortable with that?
Shell scripting basically the basic automation. Like I had created one shell scripting for starting and stopping of the EC2 instances with the help of the cron tabs. So these kind of shell scripting we do. And apart from that, if you want to increment anything, so for that we use for looping, etc. So in up to that level we use shell
Okay.
scripting.
And then let's say if you have to parse logs and you need to find repetitive entities, and you have to make sure how much entities are there, that which is kind of a repetitive entity, let's say the IP address, right? So if you are going to parse a web server log, right, and I have hit the web server 5 times, okay, and my IP address is gonna be there in the logs with 5 times, right? So how will you make sure, like, hey, these entries are 5 times from this IP address? What command you will form?
In shell scripting,
Yes.
so these kind of logs we use CloudWatch in our company in shell scripting. But the commands which we use, we'll start with the hash and exclamatory mark and bin bash, and after that we will since it is the repetitive task, so we will use the looping statements in this kind of scenario.
Okay.
And if there is any scheduled task, so for that we take the help of the cron tabs.
You mentioned Terraform also.
So Terraform, I was a part of one project around 8 months back. So some of the resources were created in Terraform. So Terraform is nothing but the command line tool. So we install the Terraform in our VMs or EC2 instances, and after that we use Terraform in it, do all the programming, create resources, and so basically we create that in JSON kind of format, supply all those EC2 IDs, etc., and then supply Terraform apply command. And if we want to destroy our infra, so use Terraform destroy command. So basically that Terraform is used for the backup purposes. So create the file, and that means keep all your infra in the infrastructure as a code format, and if there is any problem like disaster kind of thing, so we can recover our uh, infra back in a very less time. So for that, Terraform is used. And one more tool is there, cloud formation in AWS. So cloud formation I have not used.
Okay. Okay, so I think that's pretty much from my side. You have any questions for me?
No, sir.
Okay, so I think that's all, and I'll share my feedback to HR, and I will get back to you. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks for your time.
Okay. Thank you.